Oh, great hockey gods, who shall win the next Ice versus Mustangs game?
What game of the series is it?
It's the third game of the year against these two teams.
What year is it?
It's 2014.
How did the Mustangs go last week?
They lost against Perth Thunder 4-1. Why?
I foresee that the Mustangs will win, and they will at least double their score in the third period.
How do you know all this?
I use Excel. Give it a shot sometime.
The Melbourne Ice lose 8-3 to the crosstown rival Melbourne Mustangs in what turned out to be a pretty ugly game for the Ice. There were two things that I saw that really let down the Ice, and from there all of their problems sort of went back to those points all the time. The first of them was how long the Ice was spending to set up when they were on the attack. When they had the puck in the Mustang zone, they were just taking forever to get into a location where they'd be able to shoot really clearly. The Mustangs knew what they were doing and were able to clear it out before they had really had a chance to get settled in the area. The other thing was that the Mustangs seemed to know their game plan from the moment they stepped on the ice, where the Ice seemed to take a little bit of time before they figured out what they wanted to do and where they went. The Mustangs knew what the Ice were going to do. They were always in the right spots to cut off passes and stay in the shooting lanes, and the Ice never really managed to correct or adjust to that style of play. Something else the Ice need to work on is the amount of defensive breakdowns that they had. There was at least 5 goals scored by the Mustangs where the scorer was either on a breakaway or the goal was scored unassisted. And there were a couple of times where both of those criteria were on the same goal, where they were breaking in and they were an unassisted goal. The Ice really need to look at that because they really left their goalie hanging on a couple of those shots, and it just needs to lift. They can't leave their goalies hanging like that. Speaking of the goalies, Gustav Hoot was in net. Now, as I mentioned, he really didn't get much help from his defence over the game, and it really showed on the scoreboard and also in the shots that he faced. He ended up facing 45 shots through the whole game and had a save percentage of .822. I know a lot of people seem to be pointing fingers at Gustav last night after his performance in net, but when you give up 5 goals on breakaways, including one's a short-handed one, it really doesn't look good to the goalie, but I was sort of wondering where the defence was during all those goals. I know that's something that the Ice had to work on after the Ice Dogs game at the start of the season, so maybe after a couple of months now, they just need to reset their defence, get that confidence back, and carry on with the way that they were playing before. Down the other end, Fraser Carson was in net for the Mustangs. He had a slightly easier night. He faced 32 shots and had a save percentage of .906, and he let in the 3 goals. Having a look up and down the Mustangs roster, they scored 8 goals, so they had plenty of goal-scoring opportunities. Jamie Burke scored 2 goals and also had 2 assists. Pat O'Kane also scored 2 goals and he had 1 assist. And Jeffrey Grant and Victor Gibbs-Shodine each have a goal and an assist on the scoreboard as well. Having a look at the Ice players, Liam Webster scored 2 goals and he really did play a captain's game. He got more physical as game went on in an effort to try to lift and inspire his teammates, but unfortunately it seemed like he was a bit on his own in that respect. With his 2 goals, it brings his tally to 8 goals and 8 assists for the year, and so he's on track for 2 points per game. The other goal was scored by Austin McKenzie. That gives him 7 goals on the season, and that goal was an absolute rocket of a shot from a really awkward angle, and it just blew straight past Carson over his shoulder. That gives Austin 10 points for the season, and at the moment he's on track with 1 point per game, which is the best that he's done in his AIHL career. The next couple of games for the Melbourne Ice are in mid-June. They travel up to Newcastle to play the North Stars, then they head into Sydney and face the Bears the next day. These two teams are currently 6th and 7th respectively on the ladder. Both of them should be performing a lot better than what they are, so they're both going to be very hungry for wins. They're going to be some really good games and I'm looking forward to seeing them.